instrument's over 100 years old.
I was going to ask.
Early 20s.
Yeah.
Old and wise. Okay, I'm fine. Let's try it.
If you miss the train I'm on, you will know that I'm gone. Hear the whistle blow 100 miles. 100 miles, 100 miles, 100 miles, 100 miles. You can hear the whistle blow 100 miles. Lord, I'm one, Lord, I'm two, Lord, I'm three, Lord, I'm four, Lord, I'm 500 miles away from home. Not a shirt on my back, not a penny to my name. Lord, I can't go back home this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. Lord, I can't go back home this way. If you miss the train I'm on, you will know that I am gone. You can hear the whistle blow 100 miles, 100 miles, 100 miles, 100 miles. Lord, you can hear the whistle blow 100 miles. All right. We are here with Dave Fry. We are in Godfrey Daniels, the venerable folk venue, which has been here since 1976, right?
That's right, 76. First day of spring opened up here. And haven't stopped since. Made it through COVID, incredibly. In pretty good shape, too. People particularly like playing at this club, as you've been here for many, many times, Steve.
Oh, yeah, I like it a lot. There's a lot of wood in here, carpet floors, wood ceiling, right?
No, that's good old stucco.
Okay.
But the chicken wood, that's what's on the walls there. And that was from a chicken coop that we reclaimed here, recycled, and a lot of that wood catches and sustains the music, and it's part of the atmosphere. It's part of the DNA of the club. And when we first opened up, we didn't have the club, when we first opened up, we didn't have the carpet or anything, so it was kind of a noisy box. But what's nice when you add the wood, the carpet, and the people, it's just comfortable sound.
Well, Dave, it was brought to my attention that way back in the day, you were associated with Mary Faith Rhodes, and she was of some international reputation as a folk singer, and she was from this area.
Right, and she played mountain dulcimer and wrote her own material on guitar and traveled the folk scene up into Canada, spent some time in France. And so we got to know her. I was playing with a band called the Shimersville Sheiks.
What year would this have been?
That'd be mid-'70s. I graduated from Lehigh in '73, and I was playing folk music at the time in various coffee houses in the area. And we got to meet Mary, and she kind of adopted us as her band. And at that point, she started playing hammer dulcimer, too. So there was a period of growth on her part as well. And so that's when we first started the core of professional folk singers, bands, original music and stuff like that. But there was no venue at the time that was anything like this. So we had to scuffle and play small festivals and stuff like that.
Would you show the camera the book you've written?
Oh, yeah. So this came out a couple years ago. It's called Welcome to Godfrey Daniels. And lots of colors and pictures and year by year. And then also there are segments in here where we take what we call chapter spaces where I take a look at the decades. For instance, there's the 2000s, where I have a chance to kind of look at an overview of what was happening on the folk scene at that time. And it's interesting that there's the 1990s. There were there was an ebb and flow and a dynamic to the folk scene throughout the years. The struggling string bands were in the late 70s, and then in the 80s there got to be more traveling string bands, bluegrass bands. In the 90s, when there was more support amongst the colleges to present in larger venues, it gave the opportunity for these bands to come in during the week, and also that the albums and the record companies supported touring much more, and so we were able during the 90s to get the John Hartfords in the upper level, Peter Rowan and Newgrass Revival, and some of those heavy hitter bluegrass bands. And also at the time, once again, supported by the college scene and money, a lot of the Celtic bands like Silly Wizard and Tannehill Weavers and various other high-level Celtic rock bands were touring. And once again, we could get them on their way to a fat-paying gig at a college.
You told me that you first went to Winnipeg Folk Festival with Mary Faith?
Yes, she invited me up there, and it was a mind-expanding experience in that the Canadian festivals really knew how to treat the performers right. They, first of all, they had Labatt's beer. Sponsor them, and they would hire a chef to feed the performers, especially, and getting fish out of the local river and giving it to the performers, and also it was a great audience, a listening audience that was different than what we're used to here on the East Coast. And it was the first time that I heard Native American music. And they're very radicalized Native American music as part of what was the folk scene. So that it really expanded my outlook of folk music beyond the singer-songwriter Appalachian bluegrass stuff. And the appreciation was by a factor 3 times or 4 times bigger. And it was just amazing to be able to be in that situation, and also just to get off of the East Coast.
What year would this have been?
Oh, that was probably 70, 74, 75. So it was a couple years before Godfrey's opened. But I was also exposed to this situation while I was going to Lehigh. I lived in upstate New York, and I got to go to Cafe Lena up in Saratoga. Yeah. And that was as much a mind-expanding experience as anything. I had never been in a small music club before. And I got to see Utah Phillips in a small club and Loudon Wainwright doing an opening set. And Lena could tell that my friend Mike and I were amazed by it. So she just really catered to us and cut us some breaks and stuff, and we started coming up pretty often.
So what were you doing at this time? You were playing guitar?
I was playing up at Lehigh. I was working with the coffee house up there, and I was playing in a jug band called the Graveyard Skiffle Band. And we loved playing music from the 30s, scratchy music. And, if it didn't have a scratch in it, we didn't touch it. And so we really liked...
now, you mean the records you were listening to?
Yeah, we were listening to records. And
they were, of course, old 78s.
Yep.
But
also there was the reissues that were out at the time. Our Hooli.
Yeah.
Various other small record labels that it gave us the opportunity to hear the original people. In fact, a couple times we went down to Virginia, and Joe Bassard had a room this size filled with 78s, and he would pull out some of the really old stuff. And we got to listen to some masters of Robert Johnson, and it was like he was in the room. So we were able, as musicians, to transcend back into those times.
Who was Joe Bassard?
He was a guy who collected 78s, wire reels, ancient stuff.
Yeah.
But he also had the right needle, and he had the masters of some of those people. So the needle and the master made it sound like that person was in the room, and it opened up our ideas to how good the technology was. It's when they started putting them on to 78s that wore out, that we have that, bias against the old stuff. But once again, it was the ability. What's that?
You were hearing it in pristine quality.
Yeah.
At his collection house.
Right. But it was that ability to transfer ourselves beyond the scratchiness and hear the live stuff the way it was played. And how those old blues players were just great, and the old string bands were just winding it up, and so it got us back into that head that we could listen.
What's become of that collection, Dave?
I think it's still there, I'm sure.
What would it be called?
Joe Bassard. And I saw something on Facebook about him. He's pretty, I'm sure he's probably passed on by now, but that collection is probably there somewhere. Joe Bassard. Check it out.
I will look into it and see if a person can see this collection. maybe someone is curating it, or
I would think so. It's one of a kind,
okay.
But it's Paul, that whole era of the New Lost City Ramblers and the Greenbrier Boys and kind of and early Tom Rush doing all the kind of this retread stuff of the old stuff before they started writing their own material. So it's kind of a retro period, and we were part of that, and we were, if it wasn't recorded after 1930, we wouldn't touch it.
Wow. Now, of course, you were going to concerts very early on. Was it when you were a kid? I mean, you told me once you had seen Bill Monroe. I think.
Well, that was when I was in college. I didn't get the folk bug until really in college, and it was thanks to Lehigh, who brought in people while we went there. People like Roy Bookbinder and Chris Smither, Happy and Artie Traum, and a couple festivals with Pete Seeger and Elizabeth Cotton, Rosalie Sorrells, and various other of these touring bands. And then we had our own coffee house, so we try to duplicate that in our own sphere and support it with the other players that played folk music in the Lehigh Valley.
You mean this, of course. This was your own coffee house.
No, I went to the one at Lehigh. There was one in the college courses. There was one at Kutztown, one at Muhlenberg, one at Moravian, and one at Lafayette. So they were all college-sponsored coffee houses.
Okay, and of course that was before you got started here
Yes,
in 76.